we're going to obviously talk about basketball. Elmer Smith is held over.
Good to be here.
Overtime, Elmer. Ed Barkowitz is joining me, and John Griffin Jr. and John Griffin Sr. John Griffin Sr., of course, former head coach at St. Joseph's. Nice to see you now, college sports analyst. And you, Mr. Griffin Jr., a pretty exciting time with that big upset by Bucknell over Kansas. And I'll start off with that. What was that like? I mean, obviously you go into a game. We were kidding about that in the early going about the fact you don't want to go into a game thinking you're going to lose it. But you had to have in the back of your mind you're taking on a powerhouse in Kansas. And what was your mindset? What was the team's mindset heading into that game?
To be honest, our mindset was to shock the world. Kansas is a great team. They have Wayne Simeon, probably the best big man in the country behind a kid from Utah, Bogut. Our mindset was to stay confident. And, we got lucky. A few things went our way, and we won.
You get into a game like that. You get into a game like that, and all of a sudden things are going pretty good. And now you're feeling pretty confident. At what point do you say, you know what, we're going to beat these guys?
After the first media timeout, the first 5 minutes, definitely, we felt that we could play with these guys. And, it showed. We had fun with it. It was a great opportunity for us. And, the first 5 minutes, we just got a feel for the court and feel for the atmosphere.
John, you guys had played a relatively difficult schedule. I mean, you had beaten Pittsburgh, you beaten St. Joe's, you'd hung with a couple other tournament teams. How much did that weigh in your preparation as far as, all right, Kansas, good team, but not unbeatable?
Yeah, it definitely boosted our confidence. To play at St. Joe's is such a great, basketball atmosphere, and to play at Pitt, it definitely boosted our confidence, and, to play the way we can, good things will happen.
Did you play anybody as big across the front earlier in the season?
That kid Chris Taft is pretty big. But Wayne Simeon, he's so big. Once he turns, he creates so much space. Yeah. Shoulders are so broad, but not as talented. He was definitely the most talented player.
Well, you've all of a sudden come back to me, and here I'm worried about what we're going to talk about next. But I got to ask you a question. Your son is a freshman, and you're watching him play. It had to be an exciting time for him. Obviously he's got a great career ahead of him, but it had to be an exciting time for you as a former coach, a guy that does this for a living, to see him so successful at this point in time.
Well, it's kind of a dream come true in a sense that, I tease John and say that he's had a charmed life so far. I mean, he played for Speedy Morris at St. Joe's Prep, and they had some success there. And then in his freshman year, to be able to go to the NCAA tournament. So many coaches and so many players never get a chance to go there. And all of a sudden he has the chance in his first year. And in that first game against Kansas, there's really nothing a parent can do. It's really up to the players. And, John was in a situation at the end of the game where he had to make a foul shot. And in as much as anybody would like to help him, there's nothing that a coach or fan or parent can do in that situation for him. But I thought what was really interesting, when you think of Kansas, you think of one of the most storied basketball programs in the history of college basketball. I mean, you think of Kentucky, and you think right up there of Kansas, because Dean Smith was there, Fogg Allen, James Naismith coached at Kansas. You had Wilt Chamberlain, Kansas hadn't lost in the first round 21 straight times. And all the Kansas people there were buying tickets for the Sunday afternoon game. I mean, they were expecting this to be an easy win over, as they were saying, Bucknell. Yeah. I mean, they didn't even pronounce the name properly. So I think they were looking past Bucknell a little bit.
Well, Wisconsin, I'm sorry, go ahead, Elmer. I apologize.
I wanted to, maybe this is out of place, I wanted to ask a question that actually goes back. Father and son, both, you've great basketball background. You can trust him not only as a father, but as a guy who knows. The choices come down, you're looking at schools to go to. The whole discussion about whether or not Bucknell or wherever, get a little insight into what that was like, how much you leaned on your father's knowledge.
It was, he helped me, obviously, tremendously. We made it like a huge list, and he knows, all the things that you need to look for. So we made the list of, all the different, the school, the atmosphere, what happens if you get hurt, and I just really, asked him all the questions when we went on our visit, and from there, it went well.
So made the final call.
I made the final call. He gave me, my own opportunity to make my choice. But I mean, my mom and my dad were there So it worked out.
Well, I think also it's really important when somebody makes a decision that they're going to enjoy the school even if they can't play basketball.
Right.
Because so many times the coach that recruits the player doesn't stay for 4 years. And sometimes kids get injured and they're not able to play. So you really want to pick a school where you're going to be happy. And then in as much as everybody's talking about the NBA, I mean, the reality is most kids are going to get a job after college. And one of the things that sometimes doesn't sit well when you're recruiting high-level kids is, I mean, you're going to need a job. This is not all about preparing for the NBA, and I think for John, a school like Bucknell gave him a chance to play as well as to get a good education. Yeah.
Well, I think that we should start off, and obviously it's down to 12 last night. Texas Tech gets beat by West Virginia. Illinois moves on. Arizona's moved on. So I want to talk about tonight's game because you guys got beat by Wisconsin. So who's better to tell us whether Wisconsin can give North Carolina State any kind of game?
Yeah, I think Wisconsin can beat North Carolina State just because, you know, they don't get rattled very easily. I mean, I watched the press conference of Mike Wilkinson, their big man, after the game. And yeah, Bucknell's not the biggest team, but we did pull up a big upset, and their facial expressions just didn't change. And, you know, they'll stick to their stuff, whether they're up by 20 or down by 20, and that really helps them.
Dana, we got John Griffin Jr. here, of course, just coming off the big win over Kansas, and I want to get his thoughts and maybe get some input.
Congratulations, John.
Yeah, see that?
Thank
yeah.
you.
I mean, I don't know why we're here. I mean, he's the guy that's the hero right now as far as their abilities. But
That's right.
My question to you, John. I mean, you've you know, watched Villanova. You're not as familiar, obviously, with North Carolina State as you are with Villanova. But
Villanova actually beat us by 30, so
that's familiar. That's pretty familiar.
Yeah. No, I think Villanova will be able to hang with North Carolina. I agree with Dana. I think that, you know, Villanova's as tough as they look, they're much tougher. And, you know, their guard play is going to be key tonight because Sean May is very strong. But, you know, Randy Foy is going to need to step up. And, you know, Kyle Lowry is doing a great job off the bench. So, you know, I'm rooting for Villanova.
Well, I'm going to
John, I think.
Dana, I'm sorry, I'm going to throw the proud father in here. The Bucknell team also played in the Carrier Dome, and Coach, you're absolutely right about the angles and the lighting in the Carrier Dome. There's no depth perception there, so it's very difficult to shoot. And although Villanova has played there before, I think their players are probably more comfortable there than their opponent. And John, actually, when the Bucknell team started off the season, what it was like 12 for 12 or 14 for 14 from the field in the first two games at the Carrier Dome.
What was it like for you shooting? And I want to get back to Dana, but what was it like in trying to shoot the ball in the dome?
You know, it's different. There's so much more space behind the basket. It does look like the baskets are floating. You know, but it's fun. The atmosphere is fun. So, you know, any basketball player will be able to shoot in an atmosphere like that.
Arizona taking on Oklahoma State. I got to ask you, John, it's no secret that it's always the good coaches that are in position like this.
Well, the rich get richer, you know, and Eddie Sutton, a great career, Oklahoma State. And how about Lute Olson at Arizona? And what a great shot there at the end of the game to knock down that shot and win the game. And you can see this is Eddie Sutton's last game. His son's going to take over. They actually got a good shot there for John Lucas in the corner. But Lute Olson lives to play another day.
It's absolutely, that was a fascinating, I mean, just an absolutely great ending. And I mean, the shot, like you had mentioned, was just outstanding. Now,
we had a chance to see Oklahoma State in that regional because Bucknell did play right after Oklahoma State. And they're a massive team, big, strong guys. The Grahams are just about as big and broad as you're going to find in college basketball. So a great win for Arizona to beat a very good and aggressive Oklahoma State team.
John, you had mentioned on the break that you're a Stoudemire fan, huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, have you played against him?
No, I never played against
just from watching him play?
Yeah, just from watching him play.
Break down his game a little bit, maybe who he reminds people of in this part of the country.
You know, my dad and I were talking about kind of like Delonte West. That's like upper body type. You know, he's very strong. And to get that shot off last night with two guys coming at him, fade away, and that's a much tougher shot than he made it look. And, you know, he's been hitting shots all year. And you know, I think, you know, he's a real confident player in his game. I like that.
Yeah, they're a team. I mean, Channing Frye inside looks. I mean, he's the real deal inside.
You have another Philadelphia guy there on the back.
Yeah, Mustafa Shakur.
Mustafa Shakur.
Well, Arizona moved on to take on the number one team in the country as they took on the upstart University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, and there was no questions in this one, Eddie.
Really?
None. Absolutely none. I mean, this is the number one team. They played like the number one team. they just dominated. But now, what do you look for in the game against Arizona? I'll ask you that, John Jr.
To be honest with you, Arizona, Illinois.
Please be honest, because anybody that really, Eddie tries to get away with kind of going around the truth here, and we don't like that here.
Illinois I think they're deeper with their 3 guards. I like Arizona. I'm going to pick Arizona because I like Salim Stoudemire and Mustafa Shakur is a Philly guy. But Illinois is tough. D. Brown and Darren Williams
yeah.
and Luther Head.
Yeah.
They're what were they? 2 second-team All-Americans and 1 third-team. And they're tough. They're tough guards, and they'll create havoc on defense. And I don't know. It'll be a good battle.
And we'll look at Michigan State and Duke. Now, Michigan State kind of snuck in here. Everybody kind of expected Duke, of course, #1 seed. But Michigan State, over time, has not been very successful for Duke. So we'll throw that up as a toss-up. But what do you guys like in this one? What do you think, John? I mean, are you going to go with the coach here?
I'm going with, I'm a Tom Izzo fan. I think he's done a fabulous job at Michigan State, but there's nobody in the game like Mike Krzyzewski. So the Duke machine, I think, is ready for NCAA basketball. A few years ago, they were here in Philadelphia, and I had a chance to kind of spend time with them. I mean, they are fully prepared for everything in and around the NCAA tournament, and they're geared up to go to the Final Four. And I think their players are mentally prepared. They've all been here before, and they've beaten Michigan State earlier in the season.
And John Jr., we're back to you. I mean, we're not forgetting about you. You're the player. We're just sitting here watching.
No, I'll go with Duke also. I like J.J. Redick, and Sheldon Williams is a big guy down low. I know that Michigan State has Paul Davis, but I just think Sheldon Williams will wear and tear. And J.J. Redick will knock down shots, Daniel Ewing, and also another Philly guy, Lee Malchione. So I'm going with Kentucky. I do like the 7-footer, but Chuck Hayes, they're Kentucky's big man. He's a senior. He's got a lot of leadership, and not many people talk about Chuck Hayes, and I think he'll play much tougher than people talk about.
Last, we're down to the coach.
I'm going to go with Kentucky as well. I'm a Tubby Smith fan. I think his team's going to be prepared. I mean, they played a great schedule in the SEC, and I think that is going to bode well when you play a team like Utah.
Well, we're going to see how smart everybody is here. Of course, we're going to see the results tonight, and we look forward to seeing you again, John Griffin Sr. Thank you very much. John Griffin Jr., thank you very much, and I wish you all the best of luck at Bucknell. We'll be back with Ed and Elmer right after this, and we're going to talk about the fights last night at the Wachovia Spectrum. Yes, there was some controversy, and yes, Frank, the Animal Bialowas, former hockey player, wins his first professional fight. We'll have all that for you, as Damon Feldman, the promoter of that fight, will be with us right after the break on Daily News Live.